Tons of news dropping yesterday. Blizzard giving us a whole rundown. Patch notes for 12.0.5.
Super rare.
Yeah, it is a super rare come indeed. We got our first look at the first patch for Midnight, so a lot of stuff going into that, more than we even thought. So let's just jump straight in because we got a ton of shit to get into. First of all, Master Loot returning. Well, not for us, for China at least. Interesting thought here. I don't know why it's returning for them, but Master Loot, if you didn't know, was a thing back in the past in WoW where the group leader, or raid leader, I should say, or oftentimes the guild leader, would choose who gets the loot. People could get, people could run with their currency, their reputation currency, basically, that you would personally build up with your guild, and use that stuff to win roles. There were different ways people distribute it, or they just give it to their friends. But yeah, Master Loot returning to our version of the game, I don't think that's ever going to happen again. But yeah, Master Loot sucked. It was a good way to ninja loot shit, I will say that. But yeah, interesting little note there. It's returning in China, at least. Midnight Gems buffed and more bug class fixes. So we got some hot fixes in before we get into the 12.0.5 news here. A few classes getting a few hot fixes here. For one, we got Death Knight with a small little hot fix here. Demon Hunter, both Devour and Havoc. Demon Hunter are seeing some hot fixes come in. And then Guardian Druid, they got an issue fix with them. Sub-Titty Rogue, also getting a little Ancient Arch trigger effect, can now be tracked with cooldown manager. So there you go. One little delve change here, PvP change, non-character changes and everything else. So a few things going down here that we're seeing. Not much in terms of that. The real news is this. 12.0.5 looks like it's going to be an absolute freaking banger, at least for a 0.5 patch. A ton of stuff to get into here as Blizzard dropped all of the patch notes, so we're going to talk about this real quick. Incoming Void Assaults. This is going to be like the main I don't know what you want to call it, world feature of this patch. So a pretty decent one here. We're going to get these two different things here. Void Assault, Void Incursions, and Void Strikes. So here we go. The next Midnight content update, we're bringing more activities, building on the story, and adding more loot as we continue the efforts to push back the Void. Players will undertake Void Assaults, disrupt powerful ritual sites, and get boosts with Void Forge, which we're going to talk about here in a second, and Decor duels. So we're going to get into all that stuff. But first of all, Void Strikes. What are they? Void Strikes take part in Eversong Woods and Zul'Aman on a weekly rotation. Once completed, a new one will begin in another part of the zone and will continue to rotate through the zones. So there you go. Looks like different spots, different zones these things will be popping up in, and there'll be something that we do on a weekly basis. Yeah, on a weekly rotation there. Void Incursions are something different. These are larger scenarios occurring when Void Strikes have been completed in the zone and will take the might of many of Azeroth's champions to defeat them. So they're saying basically this is open world group content, which I always enjoy. I just love anything that brings a bunch of people into a single zone. So this one should be pretty fun. Void Incursions and Void Strikes coming into 12.0.5. Two different versions of world content that we'll be getting, rotating stuff. Something to do at least. And then we got these ritual sites here. What are these? Put a stop to rituals meant to empower ambitions of the power-hungry Naga. So we got a return of the Naga here. And the Twilight's Blade cultists in small 1 to 5 player instances. As you take on greater challenges, you'll receive greater rewards. So this is some kind of instanced content. Wasn't expecting this. These seem like mini dungeons or something. These ritual sites, in these ritual sites, you'll be choosing from some challenges you'll face as you climb through the tiers. Players will also unlock great vault rewards for world content rows alongside delves and prey. So I don't know how to describe these in terms of like what prior content they kind of sound like. Almost maybe like a multiplayer Torghast. I don't want to compare anything to Torghast. Or it sounds like, you guys remember the Isles that we had? Troda Gaming coming in with the 7 months. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Death Knight of our Scourge. You guys remember the island expeditions that we had back in BFA? Maybe something like that. This kind of sounds like that, but a group version of it. Did they say 1 to 5 or 5 players here? Twilight's Blade cultists and small 1 to 5 player groups. Yeah, so maybe kind of like Island Expeditions returning here in a more finalized form. Island Expeditions actually weren't bad, so they obviously died off and didn't really contribute to the expansion in any meaningful way. But if they're contributing to your Great Vault, that does kind of put them in a nice little spot there where you can do them if you want to. Players will earn field accolades with both Void Assaults and Ritual Sites as currencies they can use to purchase champion and heroic gear quality rewards. So this is nice stuff here. We're going to be really progressing through the systems with these new assaults and whatever this is, these Ritual Sites and stuff. Get a leg up on the Void Forge. So we'll get into this Void Forge thing because there's a lot actually with this one. The Void Forge will provide new opportunities for players in Midnight to take their game further. This is actually a reroll or a lucky... what did we used to have here? It was like a second chance at rolling on your loot, right? These tokens that we used to get that we no longer have. You'll help aid Dominar Decimus to build a Void Forge to begin transmuting nebulous void cores, which are transmutable into powerful equipment upon defeating powerful foes in Midnight Season 1 raids and Mythic Plus dungeons. Wow Day, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. This will work in Mythic Plus dungeons, Season 1 raids, and Bountiful Delves, and prey hunts on Nightmare difficulty. After unlocking the Void Forge, Decimus will require additional assistance to craft Ascendant Nilhammers, allowing players to upgrade their weapons and trinkets to new heights. So we'll get into more detail about this as well, because there's a lot in here about how you're going to upgrade your gear. You'll be able to push heroic gear and myth track gear even further than previously available. And like I said, this is kind of like a what's it called? Bad luck protection, I guess you can call it, where you're going to get yourself a chance to reroll on some really important gear for yourself. Holy crap, they actually got... Yes, what's up? Wow, welcome in, man. Thank you for watching the YouTube videos. I appreciate that. Also, we're going to get Decor duels. Yes, so Decor whores rejoice. You can now be Decor whores with other people and duel it out to see who's the biggest Decor whore of them all. Amidst all the danger that swirls at Azeroth, there is something to be said about having a little fun. Players can join in a team versus team hide-and-seek style game taking place in Silvermoon through the Group Finder tool on the PvP tab. That's right, that's where this will be. This is the hide-and-seek game that we talked about previously. To either hide as various housing decor items or seek out those who have donned the guise of an item. You'll earn rewards including a mount, toys, housing decor, and other little bite-sized stuff here. So this is cool, you know, a casual thing for anybody who wants to play hide and seek with their friends in WoW. We all know nobody who plays WoW actually has actual friends, so at least this will make you feel like you do. So there you go. And then a new activity here, the Abyss Angler. Okay, this is a big one. Dive deep into the shimmering waters of Zulamon's rugged coast, where schools of exotic fish swarm just beneath the surface in a new repeatable event called the Abyss Anglers. Team up to spear as many as you can and rack up points, unlocking fishing rewards and upgrades to your diving gear, allowing you to venture deeper into the abyss where greater treasures await. This actually sounds like a pretty cool little mini game or something. This is not like this is a fishing event, but this is not really fishing related in any way in terms of what we know as fishing in WoW. So you get, I guess, better every time you go down. You can go deeper, spear more fish. What are you going to get out of this thing? Well, let's see here. Seek out the Depth Diver's Juju to suit up and enter into the depths. Zip through whirlpools, catch creatures with your harpoon, and discover treasures amidst the underwater steam vents. Prove your mastery to earn dive equipment upgrades and cosmetics. This seems like more of just a cosmetic thing, something fun to do to pass the time. Interesting. Yeah, interesting indeed. This sounds like... So, you know, like some kind of mini game you can just play, almost like dragon riding races, right? Like nothing really to get from it other than just having fun and maybe some transmog items. So this sounds pretty cool. So these are some of the major events, but this is not all that's coming in 12.0.5, boys. With these Void Assaults and everything else, we are getting the recolors of our upgraded tier sets, those tier 2 sets that we saw not too long ago. The Purple Judgment sets returning along with all those other sets in recolored versions. That's right. So we see the purple versions of all those anniversary sets that we recently got not too long ago. Looking good. A lot of these sets look really good. If you remember, some of these purple recolors were available back in Burning Crusade when that first came out. The Purple Judgment set was a famous one for sure, along with some others. I mean, as a hunter, I remember seeing the Hunter set, walking around in the purple version of that. So yeah, the return of these, really nice recolors here. These are the updated, up-res versions of these. And then anybody who didn't have a tier 2 set, we've seen this before, like the Death Knight, who wasn't around back then, yeah, a good-looking purple recolor of that. So these are good-looking sets, one that is certainly everyone's going to want to get. So completing those Void Assaults and stuff might behoove you if you actually want these things. And then also, coming with this 12.0.5 patch, tons of class changes and other things. So let's get into this. We mentioned this already. Void Strikes, Void Incursions, the Ritual Sites that we're going to be getting. We talked about that. The Void Forge. Let's get a little bit more into this because this is a really interesting one when it comes to loot. And I mentioned it earlier, but this is more detailed here. So upon defeating a Midnight Season 1 raid boss, or completing a Mythic Plus dungeon or Bountiful Delve, or Prey Hunt, as I mentioned before, on Nightmare difficulty, players may choose to spend their Nebulous Cores to receive a random item appropriate for their loot specialization from that activity. After receiving an item in this way, it is removed from the loot pool until all eligible items have been obtained on a per difficulty basis. So this is kind of to stop the repeat of items, right? Or you spend and then you get the same shit that you had before. This is really a nice little kind of, as I said before, bad luck protection. It stops you from relooting the same shit, and it gets you some of those best in slot items that maybe you just haven't been able to get. Pre-read, well, of course. As a man of the people delivering the news, I should pre-read this shit. For example, receiving a Ranged Captain's Iridescence Insignia Trinket from the Crown of the Cosmos encounter in the Void Spire on normal difficulty will not remove it from the consideration on heroic or mythic difficulty. So the removal of an item is difficulty locked, right? So that's a good thing. The item level for Mythic Plus rewards from Nebulous Void Cores is equivalent to the Great Vault rewards on a Keystone level, plus 10 and above. So they have an example. So a Myth Track, 1 of 6. So when you're getting the loot using this Nebulous Core thing, you're going to receive what you technically would have received from the Vault, okay, in terms of item level. So this is a really good thing. This is going to be something that really does push our item levels higher and faster. And like I said, really good bad luck protection. So upon completing Void Spire of the Cosmos on normal difficulty while carrying a Nebulous Void Core, a Marksmanship Hunter would be offered the following bonus. So this is an offer. Remember, you don't have to use your Void Core here, but we see in the offer here, it says, weave 2 Nebulous Void Cores into a piece of equipment for your loot specialization. Item may be received once per difficulty until all potential items have been received. So these are the items you could potentially receive. So as a list of items, this list will shrink as you in fact do receive items. So this is an interesting take on what we've previously seen. This is not just a bonus loot roll like we've previously seen. This is a much more calculated version of this. Similarly, upon completing like Windrider or Spire on Mythic Keystone level 10, the above will carry the Nebulous Void Cores. And again, if you're doing a Mythic Plus, what the Void Core is going to give you is, in essence, the same item level that you would receive, not from the end of the dungeon run, but from your actual, what's it called? Why did I forget? Vault. Yes, from your actual vault. So that's a pretty big deal. I think this is a great system, and this is going to really just help us gear out that much faster. Besides this really cool looking forge, we talked about this Decor duels, the new activity Abyss Anglers, and then there's this, guys, major class changes coming for multiple classes. This is a pretty big deal. We're not just talking about like, hey, we tweaked this a little bit. Some of these classes are getting talent reworks even. So we're talking about talents being removed and added. So we see here Drakthir, Chosen Identity, getting some changes. We also see changes for Death Knight, Frost, and Deathbringer specifically for Frost. Unholy getting a couple changes. It looks like Frost, by the way, getting some maybe some nice buffs here. Unholy getting some damage reductions, and they are losing 3 talents: Blightfall, March of Madness, and Scythe of Decay. So reworks of their talent trees. Rider of the Apocalypse for Unholy getting some changes as well, including some damage increases. So it looks like they're trying to buff that. And then Sandlayan also seeing some buffs as well. So there you go. Nice increases to damage for both of those hero talents. And then Evoker, we're seeing Augmentation getting some nice little buffs here, actually. So Augmentation maybe becoming relevant again. That would be nice, or not, depending on whether or not you like Augmentation Evokers. Chrono Warden also seeing an increase in damage here. So some buffs across the board, it looks like, for Augmentation. Preservation Evoker, also seeing some changes here. We're seeing healing increases for them, so nice changes for Preservation Evoker. They should be healing a little bit better. And then Hunter. We see Survival Hunter getting some changes here. The following changes are intended to help underperforming talents and provide damage bonuses to dual-wielding Survival Hunters. Pack Leader for them also getting some nice bonuses here. So Survival getting some attention, even though I recently saw Survival is actually one of the better classes, it looks like, heading into this season. So Survival definitely getting some love lately. For Mage, we see Arcane and Frost both getting developer updates. For Arcane, we see Arcane Pulse getting a reduction, or I should say an increase in cast time, and then fixing an issue with their Arcane Missiles. For Frost, we're seeing some changes with Glacial Spike. Now their duration is 60 seconds, was previously unlimited, and then some changes to their Apex talents. Rank 4, it looks like Frost damage being increased there, so a nice little buff for Frost Mages. For Monk, we see Windwalker getting some updates here with their Apex talents and a few other things, including their Zenith Stomp, now generating 2 cheese, and Zenith no longer generates 2 cheese, so some rebalancing in terms of generation of their power there. Paladins, Holy getting some changes to their Apex talents here, and then Herald of the Sun also getting a 100% chance now for what? For Infusion of the Light to occur by 100%. So that's a nice little increase there. And then Lightsmith, Holy Armaments now generate 3 Holy Power. Moving on to Shaman. Enhancement getting some updates here to better reflect their effects. The name Raging Maelstrom and Overthrow and Overflowing Mana Storm talents have been swapped, so we got some differences in their talent trees now. And then Overflowing Mana Storm's secondary effect has been updated as well. So there you go for Shamans. Check that one out if you want to. By the way, all these patch notes will be down below, linked below the video, and I'll link this in the chat if you guys want to check it out later. Finally, we got Arms Warrior here getting some interesting updates. Colossus getting a nice little damage boost, it looks like here. Practice Strikes now increase Mortal Strike and Slam damage by 15%, and Cleave Whirlwind damage by 15%. We see Slayer also getting some updates here for them. Furry Warriors as well. Always love the Furry Warriors. Rampage damage has now 100% chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow, and Slayer specifically for furries. We see a chance to trigger change has been changed to 15% for Reap the Storm, rather than for triggering Whirlwind, which was 30%, now 15%. So changes here, a damage increase for Blade Storm for Unrelenting Onslaught, and now increases your Blade Storm damage by 20%, so that's good. And then Protection Warrior, Colossus, Practicing Strike now increases Shield Slam damage by 15%, and Revenge and Thunder clap damage by 15%. So those are the changes there. For housing, now if a guild member leaves the guild, they will get the eviction notice, be kicked from the guild neighborhood, and the eviction notice will be visible after teleporting, so people will be able to see the actual eviction notice. That's freaking hilarious. And then you'll be ported over to, I think, one of the public realm neighborhoods. That's how that all works. You won't actually lose your home or anything else, so that's a good thing. Yeah, shame, exactly. You won't lose your home. All that shit will just be transferred over to a public neighborhood. For professions, we see some changes with cooking and deafness stats, so that's fine. Not really interested in professions that often, but if you want to check that out, you can. And then interface accessibility options. Damage meter windows now have a minimize and maximize button, leaving only the header bar when minimized, so that's good. You can move that shit around, get it out of the way. Previously, certain features needed to enable in-game options before being accessible in edit mode. Now, you can shift-click the feature checkbox in edit mode to enable the feature directly. So there you go, just an easier way to do that. This applies to features including cooldown manager, damage meter, boss warnings, external defensives, and loot windows. The default size of raid frames and arena frames has been increased, so now we're going to get some fucking boomer frames covering our screens, giant ones. Added the ability to invite cross-faction players to a party from a recent allies window. That's a nice one. This one I would have thought would have already been a thing, but it's good that they changed it. And then there is a new icon for stay a while and listen NPCs rather than the little chat bubble. Okay, that's good. I always do those. They're great. If you don't do them, I would suggest doing them. There's so many good lore moments in those things. Some changes to transmog here. You guys can check this out if you want to. So overall, guys, tons of things coming with 12.0.5. Remember, this is an in-between patch, so shocker that we're getting this much stuff here. We're getting Tier 2 recolors, getting multiple events. We're talking about these ritual sites, void strikes, void incursions, the new hide-and-seek minigame, the new fishing minigame, Decor duels, Void Forge, changing the way we're going to loot in this expansion. So this is probably one of the bigger 0.5 patches we've seen in quite a while. And for today, that is all in terms of news.